Welcome into Last Call here at WagerTalk TV. I'm Meghan Payton. The madness has begun. We are here to break down all the March Madness action. Tony Finn, Rob Veno, Andrew McInnis here to talk NBA, NHL, March Madness, maybe a little UFC. I'm going to give you guys a quick March Madness recap. The craziness has already started. The upset of the day, the 13th seed Furman beats 4th seed Virginia in a buzzer beater, 68-67. Number 1 seed Kansas wins in big fashion against the 16th seed Howard, 96-68. 7th seed Missouri with an 11-point victory against Utah State. 8th seed Maryland beats 9th seed West Virginia in a close one that went into the final seconds, 67-65. We have 4 games on the slate right now. I'm going to quickly bring in Tony because he's got some best bets for games that are just around the corner. Tony Finn, thank you very much for joining us. You've been fantastic over the past few seasons here. College basketball championship tournaments, 8 of the last 9 have been winning seasons for you. You're plus 7,843 net profits since 2015 in college hoops. So tell us, what do you have going on this week and this month with March Madness coming up? Tony, I don't know if we can hear you yet. Can you hear me, Tony?
I can. Yeah. I'm hearing there's a big voiceover and echo here, and it's a mess. But let me
Hey,
refresh.
we can come back to you. We'll come back to you, Tony, if that works. While we get our producers to fix that,
Yeah.
let's talk a little March Madness. I know that Tony wants to look at Auburn versus Iowa. That one tips off very shortly, 6:50 p.m. Eastern, so just about 45 minutes before tip off. 9th seed Auburn,
I
8th
can,
seed Iowa. This
but it's
These
echoed.
are 2 teams that are very close, and I'd say Auburn has a little bit of the advantage just because they're playing in Alabama. Tony's going to give his thoughts on that one. You know what? Maybe it's best if we bring in Rob Veno first because he is looking at one that I think a lot of people have in their brackets as an upset. Rob Veno, first of all, before we break down your game, how are you and what do you have going up at wagertalk.com?
I am good tonight, Megan. Thanks for having me here on Last Call. We have a couple of college basketball plays up and available. I'm going to discuss one of those with you here on the show. We have one in the bank already this afternoon. By the skin of our teeth, boy. Late 2.5 first half at San Diego State. They won by 3. Moved our college basketball season, which has been terrific, to up now 67.5 units of profit. So continuing to roll in college hoops. Look to do the same here tonight. But again, you can get college basketball up and available right now at wagertalk.com, along with my top NBA play. There is a 4% NBA best bet up there as well.
Great stuff, Rob. Reminder to all who are new here at Last Call, the goal of this show is to get you all involved. Let's hear your questions. Any thoughts with the madness? Any thoughts with NBA? Our panel's fantastic at breaking it all down. So head over to the YouTube live comments, get your thoughts and get your bets in and ask the panel whatever you'd like. Let's take a peek right now at what Rob has going on. 15th seed Colgate versus 2nd seed Texas. Lots of people have a big upset in this one. Tip off at 7:25 p.m. Eastern. Texas is a 13.5 point favorite, total at 149.5. The Longhorns come into this tournament real hot. They just come off a huge win, Big 12 championship win over Kansas. What do you like in this one, Rob?
Yeah, and to your point, Megan, for the Texas Longhorns coming in hot, and a lot of people looking at the Colgate side here as a potential upset. Um, just my own line of thinking, if Texas can make it through this game, they probably are a good choice to make a deep run into the NCAA tournament the way that they played coming in. But we look at this game, and I'm looking from a totals perspective here, and money really took off on the total. Pushed the full game total from 146, I think, to what we're staring at here, maybe about 90 minutes before game time, maybe less. Um, they pushed it all the way to 150.5. Big 4.5 point move on this total. I chose to play the first half total over. It's 71 currently, and a couple of reasons for that, Megan. Kind of a philosophy that I use. Once these teams all break out of conference, they're generally unknown to their opponents. For a team like Colgate that comes from the Patriot League, not much really known about them. And there is the tendency for a team like Texas, as you said, coming off a Big 12 championship, to overlook them somewhat. This is not new to Colgate, right? This is their fourth appearance here within the last 5 years. So this is a team that brings four senior starters to the table, along with a star freshman point guard. They're the number one 3-point shooting team in the nation. They've got the number one 3-point individual shooter in the nation, number one in effective field percentage, and number seven as a 2-point field goal percentage shooting team. So, bottom line, it's a really, really good offense, and one that it might take Texas a little while to figure out. I think back to a couple of years ago when Colgate entered against Arkansas and opened the game just red hot from three. And that's kind of what I'm looking for here. That's kind of the philosophical stance that I'm taking here, is that Colgate comes in. Texas really doesn't know them yet. Colgate makes a lot of shots early. Maybe Texas anchors down defensively second half after they've seen it, but I think they can be caught by surprise here. And again, where jitters are concerned, I don't put those in Colgate's category because, again, four senior starters. These guys have been here before. So I think Colgate probably gets it done offensively first half before Texas figures them out. And on the other side, Texas has been on a roll offensively for a while now. So they actually play at a faster pace than Colgate does. Colgate plays pretty quick, but they're so efficient. They don't have to play super quick. Texas plays, I think, according to Ken Palm, at the 91st adjusted pace or tempo adjusted rating. So got two teams that are going to get up and down a little bit first half. We saw a lot of first half unders here to start the day. I think the unders went 6-2 first half, right? So maybe a slight concern there. But again, I don't think Colgate will come in with jitters. So now, when we look at Colgate's recently, they're 8-1, shooting over 50% in their last 9 games. They're 6-1 to the over in their last 7. All that stuff lines up for an over 71-point first half here. However, if there is a concern, Megan, the one concern that I had was Texas enters here on 5 straight unders, full game unders. However, when you look at the last 5 games they played, all Big 12 opponents, conference opponents, and every single one of those was a third time around. So once you've seen somebody 3 times, much easier to play, to know their sets, to know their plays, to play defensive basketball. And of course, we know in those conference tournaments, things tighten up a little bit. Here, I think we're a lot looser. Colgate, Matt Lengel, the head coach, has done a great job here with this team. I'm going to think that, or I'm going to look toward these games scoring points early, maybe buckling down in the second half, but not the first half. So give me over 71. You're looking for 36 aside here in the first half if it's going to be a tie game at halftime. I think that's doable. So give me Colgate, Texas over 71 first half.
Rob, I'm going to put you on the spot here because we've got a
Yeah.
live game action going on. Arkansas and Illinois, about a little over 10 minutes left. Arkansas, 15 and a half point on, or 14 and a half now, just dropped. Arkansas leads 55-38. Totals at 132 and a half right now. Anything that you see in the live betting market for that one?
Well, I would say this plus 15 and a half, and they're down 17 as we speak, Megan.
Yep.
You know what, you would think that there would be some kind of rally for Illinois, but I would say this, my particular policy, if it's this late in the game and they haven't made a run yet, I wouldn't expect them to make a run in this contest, probably just overmatched by Arkansas. So I wouldn't play either side. Total one more time. I don't think I remember what you said. 132 and a
Total
half.
is right now at one, just moved down actually to 131 and a half.
Yeah, because Arkansas is going to try and run the clock out the last 3 minutes or so. So maybe an underlook is the best I can suggest here under the 131 and a half. I don't think I would play around with side. There was a great bargain price early today. And I'm glad you brought up live or in-game betting, Megan, because if you've got the time, if you're watching these games and you've got the time to just sit in front of your apps and watch them as they go along,
Mhm.
a 2.5 point dog, Maryland, got off to a 16-3 deficit this morning. And the in game went to plus 10 and a half. So now all of a sudden you have a 2.5 point underdog just 6 minutes into a game as plus 10 and a half. That was a very good opportunity to take Maryland plus the 10 and a half. They end up winning the game outright. It doesn't always work that way, but you can get great value with these in-game spots. I don't know if that type of value exists in that Illinois-Arkansas game, but it certainly did early on, Maryland, West Virginia.
Rob, before we let you go, any last minute suggestions for those betting on March Madness as a whole?
You know what? I would say this real quick. I'm not going to be with you guys on the show tomorrow or Saturday. So I would say this: these games that take place, the winners today who end up facing off against each other on Saturday, when there's only one day of preparation time in between, is probably the key time when you're going to bet Saturday's games to look at matchups and styles and philosophies, because without the preparation time, generally speaking, the smaller conference team, for instance, Furman today, you might want to be against on Saturday. And you want to look at teams that do something better than the other, something exceptional, so to speak, whether it be offense or defense. With only one day to prep, it's very hard on these coaches. It's very hard on these kids. So Saturday's games, I think, provide an awful lot more opportunity than maybe the Thursday ones. While these are the wild and woolly March Madness type games where we're looking for upsets, Saturday, I'm not so sure that they happen. It generally comes back to form with favorites, with the underdog not having as much prep time. So that's one thing that I use that maybe folks listening to the show, watching the show here, can apply to their handicapping for Saturday.
Rob Veno with San Diego State first half hitting. Your college basketball season has been fantastic. 57.6% plus 67.5 units profit. Thank you very much for joining us here at Last Call. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch up with you next time.
Always a pleasure, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Tony Finn joins us again. We think his mic is fixed. We believe he can hear us, and he is here to
I hope
talk
so.
some. There we go. He's here to talk some March Madness. We're going to get into your streaks, your promos, but I want to get the people what they need, and that is this Auburn Iowa game. So let me know, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I thought the first time at first glance, when the numbers came out overnight and all the selection committee had done their work, and everyone had been complained or laughed or cried or cheered for their team, where they were they in, were they out. I look at totals, and when I saw the 151 and 151 and a half with Auburn, who is a gritty team who's battle tested, and had a total of 3 or 4 totals all season long above 149. I thought it was a little high. Sure. The Hawkeyes, they have a reputation, past and to some degree this season, Megan, that they hang their hats on being better than their opponent offensively. This is Hawk squad that ranks 3rd in the country in adjusted offense efficiency, 18th in raw points per game, a little bit north of 80 points per game. However, the Big Ten and the SEC were different conferences, and Auburn is a good defensive team, top 30 at most major portals that have proprietary metrics or share metrics, for that matter, whether it be KenPom or Tort. It doesn't really matter. This is a good team. If you've watched them play, not only are they a good team, they're a gritty team, and if they want to, they can play defense in an elite manner. And anytime you go into conference play, much like Rob discussed, when they don't know much about each other, while these are 2 Power 6, Power 5 conferences, and they have plenty of film, Iowa's isn't as near as physical as Auburn will be. Again, Iowa does have a kid that's going to projects out to be a first rounder, and I think we all know that Murray, yes, Keegan's brother, averages 20 and change, 8 rebounds and blocks. But again, points at the rim are going to be very difficult for Iowa. And while I think that Auburn does a good job guarding the 3 line, I think this may be the best defense that Iowa's seen all year. And 151 it's just crazy. I'm all over the under in this game, and believe that if you look at Auburn and their totals when they've played teams that are top 30 or 40 in offense, they haven't been really high scoring games. There's been a few that have gone astray because they were blowouts, and things happen in blowouts. Defenses that are supposed to be good start gambling and look bad, et cetera, et cetera. But under 151 and a half between Auburn and I, which is coming up, I think about 6, 7, about 7 Eastern time, 4 out here on the Pacific coast is when it tips off. So not much time, but give me the under there, and with a lot of confidence.
I have to point out, Tony, right now, Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
2nd seed, they're just up 5 points right now to
Yeah.
15th seed. Princeton. There is 4 minutes and 58 seconds left in the first half here. Any initial thoughts on that before we break down your second game on the slate?
It is the one game, Megan. Off air before we came on, I talked a little bit about this and talked about wanted to check to see how many lower seeds had won, higher seeds, et cetera, et cetera. Start talking about the March Madness or the Mad March that's already grabbed hold in the early Thursday sessions. I thought Princeton. Surprisingly, we talked. I don't cover the Ivy League. I watch as much as I can. I said jokingly, there's only 363 Division I teams. What's wrong with me? Not to know everything about every team, right? This Princeton team has a lot of old Princeton offensive traits, and they really a lot of backdoors, make a defense work really. Arizona work really, really hard on the stop side of the floor. And it's starting to show a little bit fatigue-wise. They can't seem to break free of Princeton. Last time I looked, it was a 5-point game, Megan. What are we looking at
Yeah,
right now?
59 to 55. It's over. It's over. Princeton
Okay.
wins. This is nuts.
But they don't cut. But it's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's
It's
ah,
crazy. This is the madness of March, and this is why
yeah.
we love it. So goodbye, Arizona. I had them going further, so that's a little bit of a bummer for me in my bracket.
Bracket
Let's look
shot.
at one that I know, bracket shocked already. Oral Roberts versus Duke. Tip off at 7:10 p.m. Eastern. Duke -5.5. Totals at 145.5. Uh, Duke's one fault, if you will, is they haven't been able to shoot significantly well from three. They're very talented, but they're very young. Do they get it done? And a team that's been pretty well and pretty decent if you're looking at Oral Roberts.
Yeah, I think this is a typical happening or occurrence or an event in March Madness, and it's difficult to have seeded Oral Roberts much higher than a 12 seed. However, they might be underseeded here a little bit, at least underappreciated certainly. And while Duke's a solid favorite in this game, um, you have to believe that Duke fans, or at least Weekend Warriors, Megan, the casual college basketball fan that does know what the market is as far as points go, had to be a little surprised maybe that this line wasn't bigger and people be jumping all over Duke. Fresh off an ACC victory, coming into their own, right? Like typical Caliparis and Krzyzewski teams that had a lot of maybe one and dones that needed some time to get cohesive and understand where they were supposed to be on the floor and where they were going to be on the floor with their teammates. Um, the Devils, I think, were 15 and 19 against the number this year. But again, for Bukowski, he was really, really good late in the season. And there's going to be, what's he 16, 15 points, 9 boards, and put him together with Tyrese Proctor, et cetera. Lively the second. This is a team that's coming into their own. However, I like Oral Roberts here. Not only do I like Oral Roberts here, I like the under in this game. If Duke has a strength and it helped them carry them into it was at one point in time, a lot of people believed, hey, this team's going to struggle to be in the tournament if they're not careful. Same thing happened to Duke. They're both in. North Carolina and Moreland Nation out. This is a 30-win Golden Eagles team, a 30-win. They're capable of scoring. And it would not be a surprise to me if Oral Roberts found a way to do some things differently today, be more defensive, sag their man, play a sagging man, and make Duke shoot from the perimeter, make them beat them from the outside because they certainly don't want to be soloed up against the Duke big in the middle, or their bigs for that matter. So that said, this is another number that I looked at, and despite the fact that Oral Roberts averages 84.2 games per game, the third most in the country. Again, much like Iowa's offensively prevalent, at least their prowess and reputation being strong, I like under the total in the Amway Center in Orlando this afternoon or tonight.
Tony Finn in the YouTube live comments, Ghosted says, is Tennessee a good look today? They take on
Yeah.
Louisiana, 9:40 Eastern. 13th seed Louisiana, 4th seed Tennessee. Tennessee is a 10.5-point favorite.
Listen, Tennessee's a good look. Tennessee's going to win this game. I'm very confident of that. But Tennessee isn't the type, save a game where they just blew Kansas out and got piped for that game. It's a team that's going to play deliberate. They're going to be conservative offensively. and they're going to be just brutally smothering defensively. And in a game that has a total at this number, a team that's that elite defensively, double digits, a big number to lay. However, I have plenty of I know plenty of pundits and peers who will say, listen, double digits, less than 15 in Mad March. I'm in it. I'm not. I'm not going to lay that much with Tennessee all over. I like Tennessee. I like their chance of advancing as long as they can hit a few threes.
Tony Finn, we appreciate you joining us here. Fantastic person to back if you're looking at some college basketball action. Tony Finn, 8 of 9 winning seasons. He's plus 7,843 in net profit since 2015. Let us know where we can find you before we let you go.
You can find me at one place. I've mentioned this before, in the dark corners of Wager Talk, kind of trying to hide every once in a while from my embarrassments, which happen in this in this profession, but only at Wager Talk. And you find me at the Wager Talk Tony Finn homepage. I try my best to keep that updated and let you know what's going on, what I have, what I don't have, and what I like.
Tony Finn, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too, Megan.
Let's
Thanks.
switch gears. Time to talk NHL, maybe a little UFC, and no one other better to do it than Andrew McInnis. We appreciate you joining us here at Last Call to break down the latest action in hockey and also in UFC. First, I've got to shout out some stuff you've been doing. 6-1 on a 4% plays in NHL, 11-5 UFC run on all 4% plays. Where can the audience find you, and what do you have going on up at WagerTalk.com?
Great to be here, Megan. Thanks for having me on with you. And look, I'm excited. I'll keep saying today, if you're not excited right now, you are not a sports fan because there's so much going on. There's hockey, there's basketball, there's UFC. The UFC events are awesome because it's just one every week, and you get to do your research, do your work all week long, come out with your packages. I think I have about 4 plays circled, but I have a 4% best bet going in the UFC. That's coming this Saturday. I have a small little preview and a little pick to give out here today on the show. But the biggest thing I wanted to preview was the 5% NHL I have going tonight. I do recommend people check that out. It goes off in about half an hour time. So anybody that wants to grab that can use the promo code GOAL20, take $20 off that purchase there. Get a great price for it and cash in with me. Number one last 2 years combined with 5% NHL plays.
Let's switch right into it, Andrew. Your NHL play of the day, free play that you're giving out here at Last Call. You know what? Before I break it down, this is a reminder for all the audience right now. If you have any NHL questions, UFC, Andrew can break it all down. So head over to the YouTube live chat, get your last minute questions in for today's slate or the slate this weekend. Dallas Stars at Edmonton Oilers, tip or not tip off, we're on the wrong sport. Puck drop at 9:05 Eastern. Oilers minus 150 on the money line, and the totals at 6.5. You're eyeing a team total here for a team that has not fallen short of scoring as of late.
That's for sure. This is a Dallas Stars team that can most certainly score. They're very, very deep. They've got lots of different options as far as their goal scoring ability. They have defensemen that jump into the rush, a great power play. But here's the funny thing here, Megan, with this one. The reason why I've selected to go team total, a lot of people, they only do team totals when they have a favorite, right? Like a favorite that's minus 200. They want to get a better price, so they look towards a team total. The fact is, Dallas is an underdog here. I'm already getting a decent price on them. But here's the thing. The Oilers, maybe not as of late against some opponents they've faced, but overall, on a large scale, this Oilers team is involved in lots of high scoring games. I've taken a lot of opponents' team total against the Oilers, and they might not even win the game, but they still hit their team total. If the Oilers win tonight 5-4, I still cash a ticket. You know, and this Dallas Stars team, they were on a huge run. They're playing some really good hockey. And pretty much they won like I think 7 of their last 8 games. Then they drop an embarrassing one to the Vancouver Canucks. It was not a good spot for them whatsoever, but this is a Dallas Stars team that has a lot of veteran leadership on the team. Good mixture of young guys as well, but a lot of older players, very well coached. And I think their team will be ready to bounce back. Meanwhile, Edmonton, I mean, they take down Ottawa 6-3, but it was a game that they might have only allowed 3 goals. That's what the score sheet says. But I watched that game. I look at all the analytics. I'm telling you, without their goaltender playing very well, they could have easily allowed 4 or 5 goals in that one instead of the three that they allowed. So to me, this is a really solid Edmonton team offensively, but they are very poor defensively. And we will see that tonight with a Dallas team that, let's be honest, they're slept on. Nobody talks about them. So I decided, hey, I'll talk about them. We'll take their team total over 3.5 goals tonight in bounce back mode after a rough loss. Give me the team total here for the Stars.
Andrew, I'm going to talk about a game that's a little bit more prevalent. I know everyone likes to talk about them. I love them. The Tampa Bay Lightning at New Jersey
Mhm.
Devils. Puck drop 7:05 p.m. Eastern. You can get minus 140 on the Devils. Anything that you're eyeing in this one, by the way, the total is at 6.5 as well.
Well, I'm happy to talk about this one because the NHL, especially near the end of the season, it seems like the schedule makers have made a lot of home and homes or just situations where the same teams are playing back to back times. I think it creates rivalries. We see lots of physicality, and it's just kind of cool seeing how the coaches adjust, how the players adjust from one game to the next. Tampa Bay wasn't playing very well, and they go ahead and shock everybody and win 4-1 just 2 days ago against the Devils. A lot of the times, Megan, what I do when teams play back to back times against each other, I try and just go the opposite of what the total was in the first game. Now, with Tampa Bay scoring 4 goals, that's great, but I don't think we're going to see the Devils score just 1 goal again tonight. We saw an under. We saw a good defensive game from the Lightning. Even the Devils played pretty well defensively, but I think this one's going to be an absolute goal fest. I expect goals here from both parties. There's far too much talent, far too many shooters out there. I know there's some good goaltenders on both these teams, but when I see a team play just 2 days ago and they lose 4-1, they're going to be desperate, motivated to bounce back. And I could see these teams trading goals all night long. So give me the over.
There we go. Andrew, I appreciate you dealing with that one that I threw you on the spot with. Let's switch gears though. Let's talk a little UFC. I know a fight that you're looking at Saturday at 5:45 p.m. Eastern, Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill. What sticks out to you in this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit shocking. We're getting up there with the price a little bit. You can get minus 170 as of right now on O'Neal. But when I look at the UFC, it's very simple. I look at recent form and I look at a fighter being well rounded. Some fighters, they're really strong on their feet, they're really strong on the ground. And sometimes when you're so dominant in one area, that can be just enough. That can be all you really need. But in this scenario, I think O'Neal is just the better fighter all around. And especially if that fight stays on the ground or on their feet and doesn't get to the ground, I feel like she'll be able to dominate Maya in this one. Casey O'Neill, 4-0 since entering the UFC and very respectable victories, not getting any easy ones at all. Since joining the UFC, taking on really tough opponents like Shevchenko and all kinds of other fighters. Meanwhile, Maya, 3-4 in the last 7 inside the octagon. And realistically, I describe her as a one-trick pony. If she does not get you to the ground, she will not be successful. And I feel like Casey O'Neill will be able to keep this on the feet, outstrike her way to a victory, be very smart in this one. And like I said, it's UFC. Sometimes you have to lay these minus 170s. I feel as if it is very, very well worth it. We've got 2 fighters, Megan, that I think are very skilled in their own ways. But in the UFC, I think when you're a fighter and you only kind of have that one, plan of attack and that one way to victory, it doesn't really help you very much. Casey O'Neill is well rounded and can win this fight in multiple ways.
Andrew, we have some questions coming at you at YouTube Live, but before we switch back to NHL, I just want to ask you any general betting advice for UFC for those that are trying to just start and get into it?
Well, like I said, I mean, you kind of have to look at recent form, but you want to look at the stylistic matchups, right? Sometimes you'll have a wrestler going up against a striker or a striker versus striker and things like that. And when I look at that, I want to look at how active somebody has been. I mean, to use the fight that I just talked about, O'Neal lands a ridiculous 8.59 strikes per minute. That is unbelievable. You want to look at some of that stuff like that in certain matchups. So, really, to me, it's all about the styles. But recent form is bigger in the UFC, in my opinion, than it is in any other sport because you want to see how somebody is coming off a tough loss or coming off a certain win. And like I said, though, the styles are really important. Look at Conor McGregor. Everyone knows him, right? He does amazing against fellow strikers. You put him up against a wrestler, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. So I really think that that's important for people looking to bet the UFC.
All right, let's switch back over to the UFC. Great, or back over to NHL. Great insight from Andrew. Bruins versus Winnipeg tonight, assuming it's Hallmark versus Hellebuck in the net, leaning on the under here at EV. Also, what do you think about him as a long shot for best goalie in the league? Could we see that happening? That's coming in from Vegas Degan on YouTube Live.
I mean, look, I was just as shocked as the rest of the world that the Boston Bruins lost to the Chicago Blackhawks. Not only did they lose, but they lost 5-0. I mean, that's crazy. We're talking about Arizona getting bounced and all these top seeds getting bounced in college right now. That's about as big of an upset as what we just saw in college. The fact that they lost to Chicago. So I do think the Bruins are going to be in bounce back mode. I think the price is fair to back them. And to be honest, that's what worries me is that, for lack of better words, excuse me with the way I said this, but they're going to be pissed off. I mean, this is a Bruins team that will not be happy entering this game. So honestly, that is my biggest worry. If you take an under in this one, that we could see the Bruins explode for 4 or 5 goals, which would get you over the total. So if you're going to look towards an under in this game, I would say look towards the team total under for Winnipeg Jets. This is a Bruins team you don't want to mess with after a rough loss. And that's kind of what they're going through right now. It's funny about the Vesna question because I recommended on our Prop It Up show every Friday here on the channel to take Allmark to win the Vesna, and he was minus 150. And a lot of people were telling me, like, well, why would you jump in and take somebody like that at a price like that? And I said, you know what? There's a reason why I took him, because he was minus 150. 2 weeks later, he's 170, then 200. So to be honest, unless something happens out of nowhere, unless Allmark gets injured tonight, I would not risk taking an underdog or somebody else. Megan, these underdog picks always sound fun until they don't cash. You know what I mean? And everyone loves a big plus price, but sometimes the favorites have to win.
Well, there's a reason why it's plus money, and it's not because the
Yeah.
books are being kind. Andrew, we appreciate all of your insight. 6-1 on 4% plays in the NHL, 11-5 UFC run on all 4% plays. We appreciate your time here at Last Call. We will catch you next time.
Thanks so much. Take care.
And we've got plenty of action here at Wager Talk, breaking down all of the madness. Arizona's out. Second seed swiped out by Princeton, who was a 15th seed. This is going to get crazy, and Wager Talk's here to break all of the action down. Join us every Saturday and Thursday here at Last Call, Saturday at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern, that is, and we'll break all the madness down. Thank you very much. See you guys soon.